Just after the toss every evening. I hope you've locked that time in your day for our daily date on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout powered by Dell. Looking ahead, the game between Sunrisers Hyderabad and Kolkata Knight Riders, both teams in search of their first points this season after opening game defeats to RCB and Mumbai Indians respectively. It's match number 8 of this year's tournament at Abu Dhabi. It is of course the Indian Premier League and an all-Indian cast today. My two favorite Indian guests after Ajit Agarkar are here, Akash Chopra and Sanjay Manjrekar. I hope that is a warm enough welcome for both of you.
It's going to be fun. I love Akash's company because there's going to be a lot of disagreements.
Right. No, I was slightly disappointed, Ronak, that your list of people that you like more than Sanjay and me consisted only of one name. That's Ajit Agarkar. I thought that would be a longer list.
So if I had a playoffs of people, y'all make it. No, y'all are in my top 3. So it's not
and that's why Ronak, today's game I have a personal stake. Today's game I've got a personal stake because I picked Sunrisers Hyderabad as one of the teams to make the playoffs. So I'm going to be a little emotionally involved in this game.
We will never forget that Akash Chopra picked RCB to make the playoffs, and we will not let that emotion go out.
Forget playoffs. He said title also.
It's very early.
Title is Delhi. Title is Delhi.
Title is Delhi. Okay.
But it's all on record. It's all on record.
It's all there. It's going nowhere. And we will reignite this conversation closer to the playoffs. For now, we've got a game to look at, Sunrisers and KKR. And the first point of conversation has already come through what David Warner's decided to do after winning the toss, which is have a bat first. For the first time this season, the captain winning the toss has decided to have a bat. And Akash, every game so far, the captain winning the toss has had a bowl first. And but for that opening game where Chennai chased it against Mumbai, every time it's gone in favor of the team batting first. So is this a welcome, refreshing change, or is this just to do with the team that's taken this call?
I think two things have just factored in. One, of course, everybody's talking about respecting the conditions, but nobody is actually respecting the results that have happened in the last few games. That's just one part of it. But if you look at the Sunrisers Hyderabad bowling lineup, you also know that, or rather the batting is brittle. There's no Ken Williamson. It's only about the top 3. There is no Vijay Shankar. So when you're putting all your eggs in one basket, which is which consists of the 2 openers and Manish Pandey, you can't possibly chase down a total. So there is a problem, but I've been told reliably that there won't be too much dew in Abu Dhabi because it's an open ground and the day-night temperature, even if it's there is a difference, there's still nice wind, the breeze blowing. So may not be dew actually making a huge impact in the second half.
If you put some context to these games, Sanjay, one game with the team batting first, one was a super over. Another was featuring the Sunrisers where they should have gotten over the line against RCB. So I don't know if it gives you a proper idea whether batting first should be the new way to go. But is it to do with that last result? What Akash says that this is a team that isn't confident of its middle order and therefore perhaps their stronger suit lies in batting first?
Perhaps, because I found Sunrisers Hyderabad's tactics a little strange. Their team selections in the first game was a little strange. Mitchell Marsh coming in out of the blue and playing in that game was something that I didn't expect. See, when batting second is difficult or you feel you want to bat first is when the pitch changes drastically in the second innings, where it slows down and if you put 170 runs on the board batting first, you win. But that's not what's happened. If you look at every team that has batted first and won, there's been one superb innings where the game has been taken away from the opposition.
Sure.
So I think that is the reason. So what you're seeing are good batting pitches where a class player has taken off his team to a flying start. They've got runs on the board and the chasing pressure has got the better of the team. So it's not so much the pitch conditions. I think it's currently just the state of mind. And as Akash said, maybe personnel in case of Sunrisers Hyderabad.
Right, KKR find themselves chasing at Abu Dhabi once again. Mumbai Indians set them too stiff a target in their first game. But let's have a look at that Sunrisers team. Sanjay makes the point on Mitchell Marsh, who was a bit of a surprise pick in the last game. He's ruled out of the tournament, unfortunately, through injury. Mohammad Nabi gets a game coming at the back of an excellent CPL. And David Warner also confirms two more changes. Vijay Shankar has a bit of a niggle in his back, and therefore Ridhiman Saha gets a game. You would assume that he might even take the gloves now of Johnny Bairstow. And you also have another change in Khalil Ahmed getting a game at the expense of Sandeep Sharma. That's what was said, at least by David Warner at the top. I'll just confirm that in the team, even though we have Sandeep Sharma featuring there. David Warner did mention that Khalil gets a game. So let's hold on to that. But we do know two changes for sure. That's Nabi and Saha that have come in for Vijay Shankar and Mitch Marsh. Let's get thoughts on that. Akash, first and foremost, Mohammad Nabi gets a game. Not a bad call.
See, it's not a bad call, but again, it is their hands are tied. Otherwise, they would have played Ken Williamson. I believe he's still not available. So when you look at this unit, you actually look at their middle order, which is almost non-existing. So how do you address that problem? Of course, Nabi should be playing, but you can only play four overseas players. Rashid, Nabi, they'll give you good 8 overs. But if Williamson was available, I would have gone with Williamson with my eyes closed with the kind of batting lineup or the lack of depth that you see in the Sunrise Hyderabad camp. Khalil, we also heard that Khalil is there. So two left-arm fast bowlers, that's fine. You can't really hold anything against them because their bowling is not looking as good as it looked like 2 years ago. Last year was actually a bit of an off year for their bowlers. They've just continued from where they left last season. So maybe Khalil with that extra pace and some amount of international experience might just help them this time.
Right. I'm just going to hold on conversation on the seamers because we're still not sure what that seam combination is. Even though David Warner said Khalil has come in for Sandeep Sharma, our host broadcaster, Star Sports has confirmed Sandeep in the team. So we're just waiting. So let's hold on for a few minutes till we know whether it's two left armers or not. And let's focus on the two changes we do know. Ridhiman Saha gets a game, Sanjay, which is an interesting one. If you have a batter that goes out, your next best Indian batsman in that team seems to be Ridhiman Saha. Thoughts on that?
Which number will he bat? I hope he gets a number which is up the order because then he can make an impact at number 5 or 6. I'm not so sure. But he's interesting as a T20 batsman, Ridhiman Saha. And I guess in many ways forced as well. Rana Vijay Shankar unfit. So they had to get a batsman in there, a little unsure about their batting lineup. I had an idea. And I saw a nice pitch report from Deep Das Gupta. And there is grass on the pitch. Now, Nabi is the sensible choice because you're looking at 3 left-handers in the opposition out of the top 6. But is Nabi the bowler who turns the ball away from the left-handers too much? No, he's not that kind of a bowler. He's all-round. He's good against both right-handers, left-handers. As I speak, if you can get me numbers of Nabi versus left-handers, would be nice. So how about Billy Stanlake? If Kane Williamson wasn't available, Stanlake comes in, uses the pitch conditions in UAE. Your fast bowlers are having a great time. Then you have some X factor in your bowling attack.
Yeah, that was one point of concern ahead of this game. We did in our preview to Akash. Is the Sunrisers' pace attack a bit one-dimensional? Are they all bowling around about that same 130 odd? And would a Billy Stanley change that up?
No, this is a thought worth entertaining. But when you're trying to address your batting woes, Nabi is actually the best choice available to them. They can't play Fabian Allen. I don't think they can even play Billy Stanley, even though it's tempting, because if he's there, Naren can't open. If he opens, he's likely to fail more often than not, because that extra pace that he brings to the table. But they're far too concerned about their batting with no Vijay Shankar. Riddhiman Saha is your next best Indian pick. There is a with Priyam Garg and an Abhishek Sharma making up that batting order. So when you know you've got so many holes to fill, Mohammad Nabi becomes your obvious choice. Not so much. Yes, he'll give you overs. There are a couple of left-handers when you talk about the Kolkata Knight Riders, but more importantly, some runs with the bat, because the guy was in good form in the CPL.
See, that was the thing that actually got Mitchell Marshall's selection. That is the reason he played in that first match, because they thought he'll bowl a few overs, get a few runs, but those kind of players, give you a comforting feeling. You feel nice that you've got somebody who does that, but eventually, when you look at not just one game over the season, it's the guys who are specialists that win you game. Nabi is a specialist. He's a specialist off spinner. But pitches the way they are in UAE currently, would you want a Stanley or a Nabi? Because batting is being taken care of. They've got Saha supposedly to fill up the batting hole. We're talking about bowling, and I thought Stanley in these conditions, the pitch that we looked at has a bit of grass, would have been a better option than Nabi, perhaps, with due respect to Nabi.
Is it also giving us an indication that the depth of the Sunrisers squad isn't? We normally talk about the Sunrisers, Akash, and we think what a strong team. Ever since they won the IPL in 2016, this is one of the teams to look out for. But every time there are injuries, it gives us an idea of whether a squad actually has depth. Yesterday, Amit Mishra came in, Fashwin. You saw a team that has depth. Do Sunrisers not quite boast of the same depth in their squad?
They don't have. Let's go through their batting order and tell me how confident you are. Johnny Bairstow, David Warner, Manish Pandey, 1, 2, 3, as good as you would get elsewhere. Now it's Priyam Garg, Abhishek Sharma, and
Akash, tell me why Kane Williamson is not available, because that's the first time actually we're hearing.
I think it's his shoulder. It's his shoulder. I think it's his shoulder. It's his shoulder. He's not available.
What we heard on the eve of the game was the franchise said he's available for selection. So
we're
not sure what's going on there.
Yes, I'll go back to my batting order. So top three are quality, but then you have Priyam Garg, Abhishek Sharma, and Riddhiman Saha as your 4, 5, and 6. Now, if you have this 4, 5, and 6 in a tournament like the IPL, you know that your hands are pretty much tied, and that's where you get to know that what the kind of depth you have. There is somebody called Virat Singh sitting outside. There is an Abdul Samad who's sitting outside, but these are again two kids. One plays for Jharkhand, the other plays for Jammu and Kashmir. So that is where the problem lies, actually. That is why Nabi, that is why Marsh actually, in my opinion, was his bowling on a surface that had a lot of grass. So Dubai, bigger outfield and a lot of grass tilted that decision in his favor. I'm actually okay with Nabi, because I think they'll need his batting more than his bowling, unfortunately.
So this is where, this is where I don't support theories of, being worried about batting. So let's have a bowler who bats a bit as well. When you have an issue and limitations and depth, it's always better to commit yourself to one side of your team, whether it's batting or bowling. Bring that X factor, which I use always, the X factor to win a game. Now, Nabi is a compromise on a pitch like this. Second half, he walks in because he's such a superb T20 bowler. But at this stage, Stanley would have been your X factor. Sunil Narayan would not have entered, liked the thought of, Stanley coming hard at him at 145 kilometers per hour. So we'll wait and see what happens.
Now, if you all are to indulge me on the franchise just a bit, if you are to look at the Sunrisers, they built a reputation of being a strong bowling unit and being able to defend even average scores, below average scores, miserly sort of scores. Even when they won the IPL in 2016, Sanjay, they relied heavily on Warner, Shikhar Dhawan at the top. Then there was an underbelly in the middle order. There was Yuvraj Singh, there was Deepak Hooda, was a bit of a hit and miss. There was Moses Henriques. So even since that time, they said that their bowling is their strong suit. If you take the same argument now, that with Warner best, so that confidence is in David Warner, that I'll continue batting first and defending. Do you still have the bowling though in this team? Is it
no? Because I think that season Bhuvneshwar Kumar had a sensational IPL season. He was one of the highest wicket takers. So he was leading the attack. He was reliable in the death. That's not the case anymore. And that final game as well, Ben Cutting unleashed, and they found somebody. Henriques also played a few innings, and there was some kind of revival if there was a collapse at the top, which rarely happened. Dhawan and Bairstow very consistent, beg your pardon, Warner
and
and
Warner.
Dhawan were very consistent at the top, but clearly the bowling has gone down, and that's why I feel they need to add a little bit of spice. I don't know how an Australian will add spice, but what I mean is by pace.
All right. Let's come back to this conversation once we get confirmation on what the pace attack of the Sunrisers looks like. Let's go to the KKR team. There are a couple of changes there for Dinesh Karthik as well. And one of them includes a game for Varun Chakravarti, who was picked up for pretty decent money in the IPL auction last year and for less money this time as he was bought of Kings 11 Punjab. But there is an added spin option now to Sunil Narayan and Kuldeep Yadav. So he comes in for Nikhil Nayak. And Kamlesh Nagarkoti gets a game ahead of Sandeep Warrior, who started against the Mumbai Indians. Let's get thoughts on that. Akash, Mavi and Nagarkoti playing together finally after these seasons where they've had some troubles with injury.
Yeah, they were the ones who actually lifted the Under 19 World Cup together under Prithvi Shaw. Prithvi Shaw and Shubman Gill. Shubman Gill is also part of this unit. But you know what they've done? They were playing 10 versus 11. They always played only 10 men. In fact, the last game, Nikhil Nayak at 7. Now at 7, you could have Rahul Tripathi, you could have Siddesh Lad, you could have Rinku Singh, and it would have been a futile exercise putting an Indian batsman at number 7, who's a specialist Indian batsman. So now what they've done, they've actually added another bowler to the team, and that's Varun Chakravarti. Of course, Warrior, Mavi, Prasidh Krishna, you could pick any. It doesn't really make a huge difference as far as their bowling resources are concerned. Because all these young kids, and Kamlesh Nagarkoti will be playing his first IPL game. So we're all looking forward to see how that goes. But then they do have the depth. They have as many as 7 bowling options now. So when you go in with 7 bowling options, you also almost force that Russell bats slightly higher up the order. There is more responsibility on Dinesh Karthik, on Morgan, on Shubman Gill and Nitish Rana. This team looks good to me. Yes, they may not be able to survive a collapse. But then you'd rather go with that and rather in place of maybe just playing with 10 men as they were doing all this while.
Yeah, I think
Ronak,
Sanjay,
Ronak,
yeah,
I'm very excited
yeah.
with this playing 11. This is exactly the point that I was trying to make, and I'm glad that Akash has agreed with me in the principle that you've got your bowling strong now. Adding a bowler, there's a bit of an X factor again, like that I keep talking about in the spin department. If Cummins is still, getting into his rhythm. Nagarkoti, Mavi, 2 young bowlers, are they going to be your reliable fast bowlers who will, change the tide of the game? Not likely. So they're trying to do it by spin. The ground is slightly bigger. Kuldeep Yadav, Varun is a great selection. The only question, again, because I asked Akash, because he does his research really well, is about why Prasidh Krishna is not being picked. And I don't agree with Akash when he says that when you look at Mavi, Nagarkoti, and Prasidh Krishna, they're all the same. I think Prasidh Krishna as a seam bowler is slightly above the other two.
He looks better, but when you look at his numbers, you'll find that he leaks runs at 9 and over. And he's not your death bowler either. So whether you go
Akash,
with
you become
Mavi,
a numbers man.
no, but that's something that actually tells you over a period of time, Sanjay, and that's how you
True.
decide and choose your players. So
Agree.
see, once again, I'll actually stick to my point in terms of Stanlake and Nabi. I can understand why
Yeah.
Sunrise Hyderabad have done what they've done because they've got only 5 options. So when you
Yeah.
have 5 options, and Billy Stanlake's again record in IPL, of course, an X factor, but he's also someone who may not give you 4 overs on a day like Pat Cummins didn't in the previous game. So do you go for a 4-over banker or you go with someone who's an X factor? No Vijay Shankar, only 5 options. That's not how Sunrisers played their cricket earlier, but now they're forced. Their hands are forced, so to speak.
No,
There
but
is no Mitchell Mars.
they always had specialists, hardcore seasoned bowlers and spinners, and Hendricks, you might think is bit of this and bit of that, but he was a proper batsman. I mean, he's a proper batsman, and he played some good innings for them. So yeah, I'm more happy, let's be honest, with the KKR selection. I'm
Yeah,
glad that they have taken a risk and trying to bring a little more of body to their bowling, because with 2 raw bowlers and Pat Cummins there to find his feet, they have a weakness in the seam department. And the batting is not that effective. When you look at Pat Cummins, I think he's slotted to come in at 6 or 7, which is not so bad. And if that batting lineup remains the same, I think their problem is how they look at their batting lineup, because I'd like to see Dinesh Karthik come at 5, Morgan at 4, and then you have Gill and Nitish Rana. Young Indian players cannot be sent at number 5 or 6 or 4. Rituraj Gaikwad at 4 and all. It's just terribly unfair for young talent to be batting in those positions.
Right. Let's try and explore that point that you make. Whether both of you think that this makes KKR a stronger team. And Sanjay, I know that you're a fan of this because you did say in our tournament preview for KKR that one of the issues of concern is spin, given Kuldeep Yadav's form. So they've added a new spinner now. But then Varun Chakravarti, who was picked up for good money by Punjab last year, played just one game incidentally against KKR and then was ruled out of injury. Now he comes into this team. Is while there is a luxury position, does a spinner necessarily make it stronger? Was there room to play the extra seamer if you might? Not too many teams play three spinners and have 12 overs amongst them. So this is a question for both of you. Whether the spinner Varun Chakravarti, the person that you do have, unproven again, whether he would be a better addition than perhaps an Indian seamer. Who wants to take it? Akash?
How many fast bowlers do you want, Ronak? That's the big point,
Yeah.
because they have Cummins, they have Mavi, they have Nagarkoti, they have Russell. So they've got
Yeah.
four fast bowling options. Do you need a fifth one? My
No.
answer to that question would be a no. When you're actually blooding in someone like a Varun Chakravarti, who's not a youngster, but he's got very little experience at this level. So you would obviously give him a bit more cushion that, okay, fine, between the three spinners, we'll get about 8 to 10 overs. I'm not looking at 12. Give me just 8 to 10 overs. I'll be more than happy. Whoever is having a good day will finish his quota of overs. Whoever is not having such a good day, I have the luxury to actually throw the ball to someone else. And same will be true for the bowlers, because Russell, I do feel the way he bowled in the previous game, he could have bowled actually at least an over more than what he eventually bowled. So it's like you've got plenty of options, and as a captain, you would be very happy. Now the question will be that how you actually get your batting order sorted, and a bit more responsibility for everyone, because you know that after number 6, you've got Pat Cummins as 7. Yes, Pat Cummins, those 3 sixes, Bumrah, and all of that, but. It's one thing hitting runs when the match is lost. It's completely different when you have to score those runs to win a game.
Sanjay, we've had this conversation as well about how important captaincy becomes for players like Kuldeep Yadav. You have Dinesh Karthik as a captain now. He's now got three young Indian bowlers in Mavi, Nagarkoti, and Varun Chakravarti, and he's got an experienced Indian bowler but out of form in Kuldeep Yadav. Role of a captain seems to have just gotten quite important. How would you like for him to manage his bowlers today?
Well, clearly, if you see somebody's down on confidence, there are things that you can do to make his life easier. Bowl him at the right time when a new batsman comes in, give an over or two to just get the bowler to ease in. Talks helps, and it's a psychological thing how you handle a young player. Tactically, you can do the obvious things, but I think for KKR, they made a good choice here because they know with their seam there's nothing much they could do, so they've gone exploring the depth of the spin attack. But if KKR has to win or get into the playoffs, I keep saying this, Owen Morgan has to come good.
Sure.
Because there's Gill there, there's Rana, Narayan is going to be your wild card, Dinesh Karthik, we know Dinesh Karthik. Andre Russell, when you talk about KKR batting, it's unfortunate that so many years you're still talking about Andre Russell. Owen Morgan has come in. He looked a little nervous. I call that IPL anxiety with a lot of foreign players. But if he has a good IPL, KKR might just be able to surprise a few people.
Yeah, we'll talk about Morgan a bit more at the halftime show when KKR are set to bat. But if I'm just indulge this conversation on spin a little more, we remember times when Gautam Gambhir used to put a short leg in for his spinners. When an MSP used to walk out, give them a slip, albeit at a different Eden Garden surface. Would you like something similar, a vote of confidence shown into the spinners from a Dinesh Karthik now that he's got three to handle today and one Indian uncapped and one out of form?
See, out of form, I think is a sweeping statement after just one game in the IPL. When he was asked, when he was asked, so that's the previous IPL happened actually about 15 months ago. So I will not be bothered about what happened in 2019 IPL. You obviously have to look beyond that and see how Kuldeep Yadav is reacting to situations now. See, in the previous game, it was Rohit Sharma and Surya Kumar Yadav, both Indian players. Of course, they'll play him better, but now you throw him against David Warner. He's got a fantastic record against David Warner. I think he will be fine. It's just that you'll have to be a bit more patient and allow him to play a few games. Now you've got cushion. You don't have to always throw him into the deep end. So you can gradually get him into that match-winning form. It's too early to actually say that one bowler is not in form. Yes, Varun Chakravarti hasn't played. So we'll wait and watch how that goes. Sunil Narine is your banker anyway. So you've got plenty of options to play with. Not one person will be under the scanner throughout because you've got 7 options now.
Pat Cummins with the new ball for you. Sanjay, last game, Dinesh Karthik went with the two Indian seamers. What should you do against a Warner and a Bairstow this time?
Yeah, because the head of the head of the snake or head of the dragon. You sort of
Head of the snake.
cut that.
Head of the snake off.
Yeah, cut that off, and you've won, and you won the battle. So I think Pat comes at least 1 over, if not two, against people like Warner and Bairstow. Come in hard, because the last time they tried to groom in their youngest seam bowlers, and I think Pat Cummins bowled the fifth or sixth. So it's a no-brainer. I think 1 over at least with the new ball, and bowl like you would in a test match and try and get early wickets, because if you get one or two in the first 3 overs, then suddenly you're looking at people like Manish Pandey coming in, Abhishek Sharma and all those guys coming in. Ridhiman Saha will be put to test. So has to bowl at least 1 over with the new ball and come hard.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a glimpse of who's actually taking the new ball, the corner of my eye, and it's tossed around. I saw Nagarkoti hold it. Now I'm seeing Sunil Narayan hold it. So I don't know where it's eventually going to land. But yes, Akash, for you, how should KKR start ideally?
See, you got two overseas batsmen, so you may want to actually entertain the thought of having a spinner with the new ball, but along with Pat Cummins for two reasons. One, of course, there is the cream is at the top. Second, there is nothing down below. So if you can remove them, you don't have to worry about a Hardik Pandya and a Kyron Pollard and a Krunal Pandya to look after in the latter half of the inning. That's what happened in the previous game. Because when you're bowling against a team like Mumbai, you got to also plan what happens in the last 4 overs. But against Sunrise Hyderabad, if you remove the top three, you're done and dusted. Then it could be Mavi, Nagarkote, or anyone bowling from 17 to the 20th.
And that's exactly what Warner and Bairstow would be thinking. That if Pat Cummins, they see him with the new ball, just play him out. Sunil Narayan maybe one or 2 overs. So I don't think they'll be looking to get a flyer. All the more reason I think Pat Cummins must look to dismiss them while they're trying to defend. And Bairstow is one guy that he can get. So it should be maybe 2-3 overs of Test match cricket from KKR more than Pat Cummins.
Right. Sunil Narayan has taken the new ball. Let's see if Pat Cummins partners him. There's also the mystery of Sunrisers bowling that's been solved. Finally, we know that both left-arm seamers are indeed playing. Natarajan and Khalil Ahmed, and Sandeep Sharma misses out. That's a conversation we'll bring up on the innings break show. Let's discuss Owen Morgan and the KKR batting. Akash, Sanjay, thank you very much. Pay full attention to the game, as I know you definitely will. And we'll pick up this conversation at halftime on Whirlpool Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by Dell.
Thank you.